make a hopefully quick video about a book I received and read this week. It's Panopticon by Steve McCaffery. It's maybe too experimental for its own good. I often praise experimental and dense and difficult and erudite books, but let's see there. This, as it says here, the formal problem that this book directly faces might be expressed this way: how can we describe the absence of narrative by means of narrative itself? It's interesting. It tries to do this, and it also tries to be a multimedia book. Now this was written in 1984, and then it was out of print between 1991 and 2011, where there was this little 500 copy reprint, and it has a lot of, like I said, it wants to be a multimedia book, and it has a lot of different things going through it. We have all of these little anatomical drawings on graph paper that vary in subtle ways. This page here really lays a lot of the ground work for this book. A woman emerges from her bath and dries herself, commences dressing. She has assumed the persona of an aging movie star in a film called The Mark. She reaches over for a novel shelved by the edge of the bath. This recurs over and over again. Sometimes the woman is a man. The film and the book will have different titles. Here it says, takes the title of the book is clearly visible, The Mind of Pauline Brain, which was a working title for this book. And later on, this will also be referred to as Panopticon. And it sort of has the effect of creating sort of a kaleidoscope where you see all of these permutations and variations. And there are more subtle variations going on too, so it doesn't become boring, but at the same time it also is one of those things that helps it resist the narrative, because when you're seeing all these permutations, it sort of loosens its grip on what is actually happening. You're just sort of pulled along, and it sort of becomes a bit of a game more than a narrative that you're chugging along with. Also refers to pages as plates. Here you can pause if you're interested in reading how it all starts out with another variation on the motif. A woman emerges from her bath, towels herself dry, and begins dressing. And then we come to part 3, which tells us that this actually is written in reverse. I'm not sure here where. Here's part 1. And I think the book can probably be read in both directions, and since narrative and plot are not important, I think it'll work just fine. I do think that it lends itself very well to be read normally, though, because the sort of the sort of repetition of the themes and the repetition of the text, and it sort of gets a bit literary theory and linguistic in flavor, where it sort of it sort of drones on and repeats itself, and without really making any real tangible sense. But the way the book is structured, and here we have, of course, maybe the most extreme repetition of the entire book. But the way the text and the meta text and the sort of theoretical jargony talk develops, it's sort of the interpretive space sort of widens and compresses as you go along, as well as coming back to the multimedia thing, the writer also transposes sort of the lack of narrative and through different media. And here you see there's two occurrences of sort of like a page spliced in editing, if you like. But it has good momentum. It's you read it in one sitting. It's interesting. It really, like I said, it becomes a game of recognition and seeing to see where the text leads you. And I think it is enjoyable, but it's very it's not really the things that I normally enjoy in a book that I enjoy in this. The structure is interesting, but it doesn't blow you away in the way that, say, mostly Impossible Object does. Here we see that we get this sort of filmy strip on the bottom, and at this point the text sort of chooses to arrange itself in three lanes, but sentence is always terminating halfway, so you sort of have this tension between how far do you go to finish reading this. Like, there's the problem of the simultaneity. Here we have this, in the middle here we have this sort of description of a medical procedure, sort of getting ready for brain surgery, and the top one you have more of the semi narrative, and that's another thing with the narrative, since there are many times where the book sort of swells into a point where you're starting to think, I'm starting to see I'm starting to see a narrative form, but then it cuts away and it sort of dissolves again. So it's interesting, but I don't know if this advances the novelistic form in any way. But what it really does is it's sort of a intellectual ride at a fair or something. And here we see that now it's compressed to two lanes, but now you also see that we're now getting audio in the left and right channel. If we go on a bit, we will see that there will be yeah, here we see the panning left and right. It's an interesting part. And here you see now the left and right channel are trying to show itself in actual stereo. We have now, at one point here, it will start referring to, yeah, here we have the left channel, but here we have the third screen. So it does some interesting things as long as you take it seriously and try to follow it. But then there's also like this this repetition of this: the textual intention presupposes readers who know the language, conspiracy, and operation. This here text will have the text. There will be some repeating texts that sort of compete with the other text, and sometimes it will fuse with it, and sometimes it will layer itself upon it, and it's done very well. And it's like, I was reading this and it's like, okay, this is just academic gibberish for my simple mind. But then it has this beautiful moment where it converges and blends with the narrative in a way where I had like this epiphany, and I was I had like this very satisfying, it all comes together now. But that's not the end of the book, so it has time to go and sort of dissolve again, where you're back to being confused and enjoy being confused. But yeah, it's interesting. I don't think it's for most people, but if you have a patience with that sort of thing, if you have patience with an author trying to sort of perturb your reading experience, sort of make it difficult and obscure what's going on to you, then you might enjoy it. I think there's a reason why we don't see every bestseller written this way, but it's definitely interesting. The name of the book is, of course, based on Bentham's Panopticon papers. This idea of a prison where a giant tower is in the middle that gives the guards the ability to surveil the prisoners at all times. And the idea, even Bentham himself said that you wouldn't even have to man this tower. The idea of it is powerful enough. The constant surveillance will be internalized, and the prisoners will behave as if they're being observed. He's also thinking about Foucault's Discipline and Punish, thinking about the infinite prisons of Piranesi and his wonderful etchings. I think that I think that the internalized fact is more the true prison than the story. Like Bentham states, I think that the only real prison is the prison of language. The way our mind processes language tries to enforce a narrative, and the text sort of resists it, but we can't avoid trying to enforce some sort of order on it. and such. It is a very, it's an interesting read, but I think it's for a very select audience. Anyways, thanks for watching.